Hello, founders and investors. Welcome back to Next Round Ready. I'm your host, Chris. Today we have special guest Adam Spector from Chore. Adam, welcome to the show.
Chris, fantastic to be here.
So I love to kind of let the conversation free flow here. But before we get too deep in anything, I like to give listeners a reason to stay tuned in. So who are you as Adam Spector? How did you get to this point in life, man?
Oh man, Chris, that's a deep question. How deep do you want to go? How long do you have? The short, relevant reason for people to pay attention. So I'm a 4-time founder, currently founder and CEO of a company called Chore. We essentially do the back office chores like human resources, finance, compliance, the annoying things that no founder should spend any time on, right? If you spend time on it, you're not spending time on the thing that you're hopefully world-class at, which is the whole point of being an entrepreneur. It's not to deal with back office admin. So we run all that. That's my company, Chore. I've also done 200 plus investments myself in various early stage startups, some later stage, but mostly early stage, with a track record that is probably better than the large majority of traditional VCs. But I'd have a different take on many things, and that has led to good investing.
Okay. A different take on many things. That's interesting. So you got a lot of hot takes.
I suppose so. Hot or not, right now a lot of hot ones around AI, but about investing too. So yeah, what sort of hot take would you like?
Okay, I
What
I
direction would you
love
like
to
to?
starting off with AI is I think the best because I think I hear a lot of different takes about it. So I'm always excited to hear it. None of it shocks me because I hear so many from investors and stuff
For
now,
sure.
but I'm interested to hear what your hot take on AI is.
My hot take, especially related to investing, is we're going to be in a post-capitalist society in 20 years. In other words, money won't even matter. So as an investor, but money will matter a lot in the next 10 years as we transition and as we potentially lose a lot of jobs in the process. So you as an investor, but also as a founder or as just an employee, should do everything you can to make as much money as you can right now and save as much money as you can right now, because we are going through what will be one of the wildest transition periods in human history. And assuming we get through it in a positive way, we will be living in the sci-fi future. We're doing a speed run through every sci-fi book. Right now, it doesn't feel that way yet, but it's
Yeah.
starting to happen. And that is amazing. Like, we are going to be living in like the Star Trek future in 20 years. That's insane. But we're also being a post-capitalist society, and that the idea of not having money as the means to have a worth for yourself, for your family, what it means who you are, it fundamentally changes what many of us understand and know what we grow up with.
So are you saying that we'll live in more of a credit society where it's about like what you've accrued and things like that? Like essentially, what's the means of exchange of value if we don't have money?
Yeah, the exchange of value is going to be the value you bring as a human, an individual in person, like how good a person you are and what you can do to help me achieve my highest goals that I want to achieve. Which, think about it, like you could argue that most of the things that we achieve today are focused on financials. And in some ways, there's some sort of financial transaction underlying some of those things, even for this podcast, right? I'm excited to talk with you, Chris, and everything else, but let's be straight, right? There's a value for my company Chore, for me being on here. There's
Yeah.
value for you having me on here. I have a decent following, all these other things. So there's an exchange that way. There's no money being exchanged, but there's still an exchange. On the other hand, how dope would it be, Chris, for us to just like get to know each other and hang out because we're good people? Like, that's also a benefit of this. But like, that's what it's going to be. That's the means of transaction, because we're going to live in the reason that will occur, by the way, is because we will live in a society where there is no scarcity, right? Today, we live in a
Mm,
scarcity society. And that's why you need money, right? You need money to pay for eggs, milk, housing, et cetera, et cetera. When all of that is unlimited and essentially free, what scarcity, there's no scarcity mindset anymore. It's solely about like, what value as a person and human do you bring to me? Especially when we'll have intelligences that are multiple times great, like essentially godlike. Um,
yeah.
you're not paying me for my intelligence, you're paying me for my humanity. Or not paying me, you're the value of my humanity.
It's funny because that's kind of the way I look at what it is that I do with this show is I like to be a part of the startup ecosystem to just try to be valuable to everybody I talk to.
Yeah.
And like I don't really try to extract as much as I put in. I think it's more about putting more in and then the extractions that I'm supposed to receive will just find their way to me.
Yep.
Like that's kind of my perspective. Very interesting. I haven't heard that take in that way on AI, but I do like the way you explain that
Hey,
because
well,
most
good. I'm coming with some hot takes that you haven't heard. I will say, like, to your point, by the way, what you said, essentially, maybe we're going to be living in a world of karma. right? What you just sort of said, like
Yes.
helping the everyone do better. Like that's a focus I have as well for chores. Like I think the world is a better place with more successful entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs help revitalize economies in their neighborhoods and their world. And so we can have more successful entrepreneurs. Yeah, it helps that Chore can make money doing that. But like that also helps the world. And so for me, like that's a karmic value that I'm bringing every day. And so that will be, maybe that will be the means of exchange in 20 years is the karma that you bring to a situation.
Yeah, that social capital is just because if you think about it, it's one of those things that it's gonna follow us around everywhere with even the lives we live online too. Like the amount of pictures people post, videos and stuff, like unless you're just completely just out of the loop and you're off grid, you're gonna have some kind of online presence. And I like to think that your social capital is gonna continue to follow you. Like it's almost impossible to delete. Right. So
Sure. And I hope, by the way, the people though who look, there's a lot of people who like to create really negative online personas and perspectives. And I hope those people someday have a recognition and realization that all they've done is create pain, hurt, divisiveness in society. And that is not the way of the future. That is the way of the past. And they're doing that to get clicks and likes.
yeah.
And only they and those around them lose when they do that.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. And I want to talk a little bit about Chore because I think what you're doing with Chore is something that I think about a lot. Because when I talk to founders, I always tell them that, hey, there's a thing you're good at in your business, and that's building the business, whatever problem you're solving. All the other stuff, like being a CEO, you're not good at. You don't know what you're doing. And I think the faster a founder can replace those other CEO like tasks, the better they can be at building the actual business. So what made you get the idea and the concept for Chore?
Yeah. Look, the idea of chore, as with every founder, comes from some personal pain. Um, the personal pain for me was pretty simple. Had founded at that point 2 different companies, and I'm a sort of a product and go-to-market person is my background and skill set. And I was the one, I had these amazing technical co-founders. And so I was the one tasked with like doing all the operations, like go figure it out, go figure out how to run payroll, how to do finance, how to take care of all these things. And I was like, wait, this is crazy. Like, why am I spending time doing this? It wasn't my skill set or core competency. I should be spending time building product and getting customers. Like
Yeah.
that's what investors care about. They do not care that payroll ran on time. But yet I was one doing it and spending 10, 20, 30, 40 hours a month figuring this out.
Wow.
And by the way, that's the average we see across our customers. Like legitimately, I know that sounds like an insane number. There are companies you get bigger, probably 30, 40, 50 people. You're spending 40 hours a month, like just dealing with random things that come up and break. Yeah, like that's 25%, like literally 25%. And founders work more than 40 hours a week, but let's call it 25% of like your month is disappearing into this stuff. That's not even including context switching, right? So like,
Oh
which
yeah.
is another killer. So short version, how it got started, like this is painful. I started offering it essentially as a service to my friends. Like I live in Silicon Valley, so San Francisco. Like, hey, could I help you out here? Like basically you're like fractional chief of staff or COO. Saw a bunch of interest, said, hey, let's go see if we can build a company around it. I met a co-founder who was trying to do the same thing. We tried to actually build software to automate this. So we raised $10 million to automate all of this work. We failed, straight up failed. The reason being is everything's an edge case. That's why we failed, by the way, is with back office work, every little thing, small nuances that are different every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. It seems like a hard thing to automate because there's so many variables that you can't predict. So like, how do you keep up with that?
Correct. Every company, like the way I analogize it and why I think we have a really big opportunity still is that like every company is like, when the back office world, like so operations side that we deal with, probably like 90%, 80 to 90% the same. Like, okay, you have to onboard an employee. Well, there's a checklist to how to onboard an employee. Offboard, you name it, compliance. All these things are like fairly the same across companies, but it's not like 10 to 20% that utterly kills you because every company then is a little bit nuanced and different and it becomes hard. So we couldn't build software to do it back in the day. You can't code 1,000 different, one-offs in edge cases. So we failed on that. We split the company in two. So in 2022, we split the company in two. My co-founder took the technology in the company. They pivoted. I took what became Chore, which was a small little services team. And since then, we've grown, 5x since then.
Wow.
We have a long way to go. Sounds good. We have a long way to go, but it built a real business around it. And that's just the founding story of Chore is like what we came into.
I love that. I love the pivot and I love how you stuck with it in that way, but also kind of evolving with the times. And I know you said you have like a services team now. How much are you using AI within Chore currently?
Yeah, I'd say AI is maybe 10% at most of what we do. And that's probably different than a lot of companies. Like
Wow.
we're shooting to have that flipped by this time next year. I hope we have a large majority of that flipped. It might not be 90-10, but like I wouldn't be shocked if it's 75% AI first. We have a very clear roadmap for how to do it. We're building that technology right now. We've built a bunch of cool AI things, but the real change and shift is going to be this next product that we're going to be launching in the next 6 months. But because of that, once again, like it's really hard to deal with all the nuances in edge cases. AI is a lot better at dealing with that than traditional software was, though. And that's where some of these changes will occur.
100%, man. AI agents and stuff. Like sometimes I'm just using Claude and I just say, hey, build this thing to see if it'll work. And it actually will build it. Like it's incredible.
It's crazy.
So I can't imagine what it's like for the back office, bookkeeping and all of those things. In
Mhm.
terms of the back office stuff that you're doing for founders, I'm curious to know what's like the most painful problem out of those, the list of the problems that you're solving. Which one would you say is the one that is probably the most glaring when you look at the data of like, wow, founders are wasting a lot of times with this?
Weirdly, like onboarding and offboarding is a really high up their pain. Like HR.
Really?
So yeah, you think that sounds easy, right? But like the problem is like if you ever run payroll yourself, like something breaks on payroll, or you have a person who you have to pay. They're leaving the company. They need their last paycheck, and it's a Friday afternoon. You're remote. How are you going to give them their final paycheck? All these little nuances that come up. They're like, how do I deal with this situation? Or how do I do it the right way? Or
Yes.
hey, like the payroll system actually broke and you have to like stay on hold for 3 hours until their team can like pick up and figure out why payroll didn't run.
Oh
Because
man.
and it's probably because you pushed the wrong button somewhere. Like those things add up. And then there's other weird, like crazy ones that have come up recently. We have a client who's dealing with like an audit from the state because like this was before our time, thankfully, but like they misclassified their employees. And so they're going through a ton of stuff to figure that out and get that taken care of.
Wow.
But like that's where this stuff gets really expensive if you get it wrong.
Wow. That is interesting. And so how early should a founder use Chore? Right? Is it something that I should wait until I'm at like a series A or series B where I have a massive team, things are built out? Or when I'm at that pre-seed level and I'm starting to make a little bit of money, should I look at something like this so I'm organized from day one, even before I start a massive fundraise?
So yes, with some caveats. Like yes, you should start as early as you can with caveats. So one, like everyone should get a bookkeeper right off the bat. Like we offer
Yes.
bookkeeping. It's $250 a month. Like if you think you should be doing your own
Nothing.
books, and this is the problem. Like there are founders who are kind of like ramen eating. I'm going to save as much money as I can. Founders forget all the time that once you get your first bit of investment or revenue in, you're no longer in save money mode. You're in growth mode. And the only thing that matters to your investors are whether you can grow. They don't care that you save $250 every month by doing your own books. No one's going to
Right.
give you a freaking award for that. In fact, they're going to say, I actually came across a founder who was fundraising and they took them 6 years to get to their Series A. And I was like, dude, there's no chance anyone's going to give you money. It took you 6 years to get to your Series A. But the guy was doing his own bookkeeping. And I was like, well, add that up. Probably an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours every month. Doesn't sound like a lot, but over 6 years, man, it's a lot of time, right? 24 hours a year, right? You know what is so, 100 plus, about 100 hours that you wasted
Wow.
on books. That adds up. Did that mean you didn't get to your next big launch earlier? Maybe, maybe not. But imagine all those other small things that you as a founder are doing. Like that's just indicative to me of you being a bad founder, which is you're focusing on like saving a teeny bit of money and forgetting about growth. So to answer your question specifically, Chris, you should start with Chore. We recommend once you've raised at least 500K or have 500K in ARR. That's the right time.
I like that. That's like very specific. I
Yep.
rarely hear specific numbers like that, but that is really good.
Yeah, just that's the right time. The moment you get that, you're in growth mode now. You're not in save money mode. Grow fast. We have a lot of our customers, we have a lot of videos on our website about it from customers' testimonials, and they'll say like, and I don't prompt them in this one. I do prompt a little bit there, but like this is not a prompt I give them. They literally will say, Chore is a cheat code. It's a startup cheat code.
That's a good breakdown. And I mean, honestly, usually companies have like these abstract names that are like made up or whatever. But when I hear chore, I immediately think of, of doing something my parents told me to do, right? But in this context, I'm paying somebody else to do things within my business that I don't want to do and I don't want to use time doing. And
Right.
I just think I talk to like maybe 50 founders a week now. And is it insane how many of them, like you say, they take pride in doing those small tasks And it's like, as soon as you have the money to pay somebody else to do that, get that time back so you can go do the other big things that you're actually good at. Like, you're not good at doing the books. You're probably going to mess it up. So like, pay somebody else to do it. Get out the
Right.
way.
Why did your investors invest in you? Or why did your friends and family even invest in you? Because you were world class at something. You were not there to figure out how to do your own bookkeeping or figure out payroll. Another example I think about a lot is with like your own, I assume you have like a vacuum cleaner and maybe dishwasher, things like that, right? Now, why do you have that? Well, you probably don't love vacuuming your floor, but you probably prefer to use a vacuum cleaner than use a broom.
Yes.
You probably prefer to put your dishes in a dishwasher than hand wash. Or you might even go next level. You might outsource and get a cleaner to your house. Or in my case, I talk about this a bunch. Like, I don't enjoy doing laundry. Guess what? I walk to the laundromat and they have wash and fold. So I pay them for what they are good at. They are experts at doing laundry. They do it fast, they do it efficiently, and they do it all the time. So they're great at that is their core competency, is doing laundry really well.
Mm.
And so instead of me spending a bunch of time doing my laundry, and by the way, my kids' laundry, I outsource it and delegate it to experts. And yes, I give them a bit more money than if I had saved that money myself. But now I can spend that 2 hours every 2 weeks or so doing work for my company or spending it with my family. To me, that is an unabashed win.
100%, man. Totally agree. And that's part of why I want to have you on the show, to kind of talk about the brand, because it's something that I'm always telling founders, like, to go and replace that time you put into the other things into your company. So what kind of advice would you give to the founder who says, okay, I'm signed up to Chore now, they're taking care of other things, because you're also, like you said, an investor? What are one of the places you think founders are like missing that focus where they should be putting that time instead of all the little stuff?
Yeah, look, the one last thing that key takeaway for founders is this very much came from you. I'm sure you've heard of Naval Ravikant, one of the most famous investors, founders of all time. He talks a bunch about how he tries to only do things that are worth at least $2,000 an hour. So essentially, he says no unless he thinks something is worth $2,000 an hour. That doesn't mean he can charge $2,000 an hour for his time, but it is a heuristic that he uses to decide, is this a good use of my time? Or if not, I'm going to say no because I have other things that I can do that are more worthwhile. And so that is, you should put that in your head every day. You say, okay, look through my calendar. Is this worth my time? Actually, it's me on my calendar today. I was like, that's not worth the 15 minutes. I canceled it. And same sort of thing. And I just try to do that as much as I can. I'm not perfect by a long shot. I still waste time. Founders waste time on all the little things. It's like the TikTok for running a business. Like, oh, I'm gonna take care of this payroll thing or this bookkeeping thing, and it like makes you feel good. It feels like you're doing something, but like really you're actually just like hurting your own business and slowly dying, and you don't know it inside. Same thing as I view as like watching TikTok videos. But so I think founders should look at themselves like, hey, $2,000 an hour. If it doesn't fit that metric, I'm not going to do it. So I'll pause there. Then I'll answer your question about like investing and like what the focus is there for me.
That's funny the way you put that with the TikTok part. 'Cause
It's empty
I
calories. It's like you're doing that just because it makes you feel good. It's like, oh, I accomplished something today. I took care of my books, or I ran payroll, or I fixed a payroll problem. Like, dude, I don't care. Like Elon Musk, you forget his politics for a second, but he's a world-class entrepreneur, right? And like, do you think that like the head of HR for SpaceX is walking into Elon's office and saying, hey, Elon, like something
right.
broke with our payroll. Can you help me? Like, what should I do here? Here are my 2 options. He would literally be like, you're fired. I'm trying to get to Mars. What the F are you talking about? Like, why are you bothering me with this? Like, because guess what? He hired that person to take care of it. And it's not something a founder should ever spend their time on.
And I think that's like a good idea for me with this podcast. That's kind of like how I have to look at it, because once I started having certain investors on, it's like my inbox is full of people that want to be on the show.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just, it's endless. And I can't say yes to everybody. I can't. It's just, so I have to be selective, and it's not to be rude or snobby. It's just the reality of hosting the show is I have to pick whose episode is going live this week.
Yep.
I can't put all of them out, and I don't have time to interview everybody. So I gotta choose. And I think when you kind of just accept that part, it gets easier versus trying to fight it and try to do everything. It's just impossible. It's inevitable at some point.
Yeah. Look, the rule in life in general is if you try to do everything, you're going to do nothing well. And you inevitably will not do anything all that interesting in your life.
Exactly. That's why I focus on video content over everything else. Like, because it's just
Smart.
easier. So yeah, I would love to hear about, what you've done as an investor, because that's something that this show is built on. And me, myself, I love getting to learn that other side of how those decisions are made. And I think you're in a unique position being a current founder that also does investing. Like that is really unique.
You just answered how I make my investments is because I bring the view of a founder. I am a founder. It's what I do day to day. Yes, I've made a lot of investments. Yes, I've had my own VC fund, but like I bring day to day the founder mindset to it. And like, so I'm going to sit down with the founder. I actually did earlier today. We're going to talk about his business, like real deal, like what's going on. It's not a pitch. It was a discussion like, how's it going? What do you need help with? What's breaking? Why isn't it working? How are you going to grow it? There was nothing about it that was a pitch. And I'm like, okay, like this guy's really smart. Actually, with this guy today, I was like, really smart, huge vision. I'm not sure he's like, he was a little all over the place. Like he didn't actually do a really good job giving like the one sentence, like this is why this is going to be huge. And I think he needs to work on that. But like the point is, that's what I bring to my investing is that different perspective of what makes you truly passionate and differentiated in making this happen. Why are you special? Why are you unique? And how are you going to make sure you can go get it done? So an example I use a bunch is I met at sort of a founder retreat, the guy who ended up becoming the founder of a company called Human Interest, which is a fantastic 401k provider. Roger and I sat down then for a coffee once we got back to San Francisco. We chatted. This was like literally he just got into Y Combinator. We were actually shooting the shit about like the name he should use for the company and all this other stuff. So it was really early. By the way, his history is interesting. He was previously a founder of like a web design company, right? So not a 401k company at all, but he had major issues getting a 401k for his team at his previous company. And he said, well, like part of why I think this is a huge problem here is why, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and by the way, I've taken like, I call the Series 7. I don't know if that's true, but it's like some major financial tests that you've taken every state to be allowed to offer a 401k as like a broker, basically. And it is a really hard test. Like this is a hard test. Most people fail it. They do it in one state where they want to go work, usually in New York or something. And many people fail it over and over. And Roger's like, oh, I've taken that in like 7 states already and passed each one. I'm like,
whoa,
dang. All right. Like you're serious. Like you're really in. You're in making this real. Cause to me, that sounds terrible to go back and study. Like, you know, I took a lot, I got a law degree and business degree and all that other stuff. But to go back and like go take the bar again, oh my God, that would be terrible. I have no interest in taking the law bar again. And he went and did this 7 times and ended up doing, I think, in all 50 states, because that's how you can get a license to offer 401ks. That's dedication and focus. And like, this guy's serious.
That is different. That is a different type of beast right there. And I always challenge founders with stuff like that. Like, what's the limit you're willing to go to? Like, where are you willing to take this? Like, what's your ceiling? You know, and I think if you as a founder know what that is, then you can tell if you're really about it or not. Like, I literally, how I got this show started is I talked to 100 founders at different events and demo days and stuff. And like, I packed up all my equipment and I went to a venture studio and I'm like, hey, I want to interview the founders and investors here. Like, that was, I didn't ask anybody. I just went in there with all the stuff. I'm like, hey, I want to do this.
Yep.
And it just worked. And it's been endless since. So I think that type of, I guess, grit is what's required. Are there any specific red flags that you see in a founder that make you just run the other way?
Certainly if you are not being willing to actually do your own stuff. So there's some founders like build your own things in today's world. I met with some founders 6 months ago and actually made a bunch of changes since we spoke, which was good. Credit to them. And they're like, oh, like we're waiting. Our co-founder is a technical guy, but he hasn't left his job yet. We're kind of waiting on him to build things, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, there's zero chance you're going to get, like, you're dead in the water. You need to come back when you've built a full demo, full working product. I don't care if you vibe coded. I don't care if the code underneath is spaghetti. You need to be able and willing to go build some of the stuff on your own in today's world and get it off the ground. So yeah, if a founder's like, oh, I can't do it today. Like there's no excuse not to be able to build things anymore. Like that is a bad excuse. You should be able overnight to be able to get me a demo of your product that is working and makes sense. And you should be able to explain all the nuances and why you thought about all the different angles. So that's a red flag if you can't do that. That's 1. 2, inability to clearly articulate why what you're building is exciting. If you can't capture my, like, I try to have a good attention span. I try to stay focused, but if you can't quickly articulate why this is huge and who it's serving and why companies are going to buy it, it's really hard for me to get energized by. I hear too many pitches and I don't have enough information in most cases to really make a smart decision. 3, in today's world also, you need to be really clear about why you will still be in existence in 10 years. So to me,
Oh,
the biggest challenge is anyone, as I mentioned, I don't even think we're going to have money in 20 years. So you need to give me a really good reason to bet on you on a 10-year journey that I'm going to have a real exit and valuable exit from. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I'd rather just put my money into NVIDIA stock, which is liquid and I know it's going to go up. So like, why should I bet on you?
that's a damn good point. That's a really good point. Because I don't think founders always think that far ahead. I,
In
I,
some ways
I
they shouldn't, but like investors are. And I need to know why this is going to be huge.
Yeah, and that's kind of like part of the pitch that I try to tell founders to do is like, don't go with the TAM in terms of the massive market, how many billions of people you can reach. Talk about where you're starting, how you're reaching people already, and then how you're going to grow from that using investor money. Like, show that you've already gotten some kind of result. You have the foundation set, you've built something. And I always compare it to like a car. Like, your startup should be a car that's already going. And then investors is giving you fuel or nitrous to go faster, right? Like, you don't go to them to get your car set up. You go to them to go make your car go faster. And I don't think founders always have the right mindset because they don't really understand from the investor side of like investors have to go and raise a fund. Like a lot of founders don't even know that. Like they just think it's always investors giving their own money out. Like, no, they have LPs who like have to give them money that they then invest in you. It's a process. Like understanding that makes it, I think that makes a founder better.
It does make it better. But this is where founders need to remember they are telling a story that their VCs need to be able to tell back to their investors too. So it's like I want to go say, I invested in the hot new thing. Or Iglith, like, imagine if I'd been able to go to my LPs and explain, hey, like I invested in Anthropic at a 5 billion valuation. At the time, at a 5 billion valuation would have seemed insane. But you have to say, here's why I have conviction and why I should have done this. And by the way, I had an opportunity to invest at a 5 billion valuation and I passed. So I'm a complete idiot. Did manage to invest at a 330 billion valuation, which, hey, look, it's gone 3x in like 6 months since then. So that was good, but very late. Point being, like, you need to be willing to take a contrarian bet for why you think the future is going to look different. And so using the 401k company, I made a contrarian bet. I said, I think everyone deserves to have a good 401k. The fact this hasn't been solved is crazy. And I think Roger's the person who's going to go solve it because he's truly making a bet on this and he knows how to go do it. And human interest is worth a few $1 billion today. So fantastic. They'd made it happen.
Man, I love it. Honestly, Adam, we could talk all day. I see you're one of those business people who like knows a lot about everything. We could talk about all kind of stuff all day, but I'll make sure I tag Chore in the description. Guys, you got to go and check that out. Founders listening to this. I know some of y'all need this. Stop wasting your time trying to look busy. Start getting actual results in your business. Adam, thank you for being here, being such an amazing guest.
Chris, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.